Qué facilidad tienes con las palabras. Salen de tu boca rapidito. Fluyen como una cascada. Me gusta eso de ti. Salud.
Welcome to the Dreams of Consciousness podcast. If you'd be so kind, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hey, I'm Matti Güey. I'm the vocalist of the band Rottenness. I'm also known as Matti Güey, and I've been in the band for 8 years now.
Now, Matt, how would you describe the music of Rottenness?
I would say that our most recent album is more like brutal death metal, kind of old school brutal death metal, with some mixtures of like grind and death grind. And some of the earlier Rottenness stuff, like from the 90s and 2000s, would probably be more described as like gore grind or even like maybe Mexican porno grind style, but like hyper blasting, just like insanity gore grind. And then for our newest record, we had a bunch of different people working on it, a bunch of newer members. So it's kind of more like brutal death metal, death grind, I would say.
And we'll speak in more detail about the lineup who produced this most recent album. When you say Mexican porno grind, does the Mexican grindcore scene have a distinct sound that it's known for, the way that there's Swedish death metal or Norwegian black metal or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously like Disgorge, the Mexican Disgorge comes to mind as like that originator of like that Mexican gore grind sound of just like blast beats and super guttural vocals and just like super chunky, crazy riffs. And all of that originated kind of in the 90s, which is also when the band started, which was around 1994.
And we'll speak more about the history of Rottenness and how you got involved with them. I should mention that you've actually been on Dreams of Consciousness before.
Yeah.
We did a Q&A for one of your other projects, Formless Master.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
And in Formless Master, you're working with Takafumi Matsubara from Gridlink, who is a legendary Japanese guitarist.
Yeah, super cool guy.
Yeah, and in Rottenness, you're working with Jaleel Castillo.
Jaleel. Yeah, Jaleel Castillo, the founder of the band. Yep.
So, can you walk us through the history of Rottenness briefly before you joined the band?
So Rottenness started in like 94. I might be wrong about that, give or take a couple years. They had like an early demo, Blasphemous Gore Enjoyment, which got a lot of circulation in like the underground scene, both in the United States, Mexico, South America, Europe. And I only know the stories from, drinking tequila and beer down in Mexico and like hearing people tell me all the stuff of the old school Rottenness days. But they did a lot of touring. The band has always kind of been focused around like touring the US and Europe, Mexico, obviously. And yeah, they're kind of just one of those bands that started with like tape trading and, mailing stuff back and forth and underground zines and shit like that. And yeah, it's kind of like the band has always just been very like underground and DIY. And those are kind of the roots of the band.
Mexican OGs.
Definitely.
And Jaleel has had a job in the music industry outside of his work in Rottenness. Do you want to say what that was?
Yeah, he worked for Ricky Martin as the guitar tech / stage manager for quite a few years, a number of years. I know they interviewed him about that for Decibel magazine the one time. And yeah, like when I first met Jaleel, that's what he would do, is he would go tour the United States, or that's how we met, is on a US tour with my other band Invidiosus. But he would like go on tour and then he would go work for Ricky Martin and then rinse and repeat. And that was like kind of how he was bankrolling the band for many years.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And how did you end up meeting Jaleel? How did you guys get to know each other?
Man, super weird, just like butterfly effect. We have some friends in a band called Minimum Wage Assassins from DeKalb, Illinois. And the guitarist of that band also plays in a band called Sick/Tired. They're like super sick grind band. And they had toured Minimum Wage Assassins had toured Mexico with Rottenness probably about 10 years ago now, something like that. And we played with Minimum Wage and they were like, hey, this guy from Mexico is trying to come up here and tour the United States, but they're looking for a band that could also possibly drive them. And then so my other band Invidiosus was like, hell yeah, let's do it. So I got the van and a trailer, and Invidiosus and Rottenness toured the United States for like a month, like went down south, went over, played New York Death Fest and then Denver Black Sky Festival, both really cool fests. And that's pretty much how I met Jaleel.
And how did you end up joining the band as vocalist?
So at the time, there was a singer and bass player for Rottenness who's named Ben Pitts, who also has some really cool other bands he's in the Company of Serpents, like a Denver kind of like doomy style band. They're pretty sweet. He was in the band for a few years, and then we did a Mexico tour with Invidiosus and Rottenness, and he couldn't make it for the first week, I want to say. So I like filled in, like spur of the moment, like improving everything. Like I didn't know the songs really. I just kind of was making shit up. And yeah. And then, I mean, Ben's a really cool guy, super busy, super active in like the Colorado scene. And basically I think he was just, doing other things in life. So Rottenness had more offers to go to Europe and Colombia and do some other stuff. So Jaleel hit me up about basically just joining the band full time. And that was around the beginning of 2015. And we went and did like Europe and Colombia, and yeah.
And as we were having this conversation, Jaleel is still based in Mexico, right?
Correct. Yep.
And the rest of
is that him? I think he might have joined right now. It says that I see his name on here.
Let's wait.
Hola.
Special guest.
Estás aquí, Jaleel? Ah! Yeah, now it's a party.
¿Cómo está, Jaleel?
¿Cómo va, amigo?
How's it going, guys?
We were speaking about you in the third person for almost 10 minutes. So glad of you to join
man.
us.
Hey.
Sorry for that. The traffic is so bad in this city, so that's
So,
my
Jaleel,
date.
I'm in Mexico too, man. Look.
You're nearby my house. That's good.
Jaleel, we were just speaking about the history of the band a little bit. Can you tell me how Rottenness got together? What led you to form the band?
Yeah, that's a easy question. The thing is that when we started, we were living in Cancun, and just when we were young, we discovered death metal, thrash, and all those kind of music. And somehow we started watching shows with local bands, nothing like death metal at all, but it was like rock and roll stuff and everything. And someday we just decided, hey, let's start a band and start to play some heavy music. But since the beginning, I just wanted to be death metal or something heavier. And it was something new in the area because Cancun mostly is just for tourist people. So there was no anything at all like that. And I'm talking about, I think it was 93, 94, something like that, or 92, perhaps. But we got seriously until 96, 97. And that's when we decide which path we're going to take for the band. And it was just like, because there was nothing there. There was nothing in the South in Mexico by that time. So we decided to do our own music.
And so the band was a little bit on and off for a while, right? Like, didn't you guys take a hiatus at some point?
It was just a small hiatus. We had this, it was 2012, if I recall. 2012, we got this European tour already booked, and by that time, the vocalist decided to quit. And also I got rid of the drummer, so I was by myself, and I was kind of like pissed to say I don't have a band. I already canceled a good tour and everything, so I decided to say, fuck this, I'll do something else. But then my ass started to be itchy, and I said, fuck this. Let's put the back again. And a couple of good friends from Denver, they say, hey, if you need somebody to help, call me. And then I had the drummer from Denver and the vocalist from Denver too. And 2013, that was the first time that I started to have people from the United States.
Yep.
And the next year, 2014, is when I met Nino.
Yep. That's what I just told him about right when you joined. I was telling him about the US tour and everything.
Yeah. It was 2014, right?
Yep, correct.
Yeah, it was something random because it was not Invidiosus, the band that we should do the tour, but it was Minimum Wage Assassin.
Yeah. I just told him about
Illinois.
this.
Yeah, and they canceled, and then the drummer says, hey, I got these good friends from Minneapolis, so maybe they can join on the tour. And that's how we met Nino and Crawley.
Yep, that's right.
And so that brings us up to the present day, and you've got a new lineup working with you. Can you tell me a little bit about who you have performing on this latest album and how you met them, how they got involved with Rottenness?
Yeah, actually, most of the business situation for the band has been now dealing by Matt. So he's the one who brought the new guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for his contacts and everything, because we used to have this drummer from this area. But when we came back from the tour in Europe in 2017, he just decided to quit the band. So again, we were like drumless and bassless. And then Matt said, like, hey, I know these guys that might work.
Let me be clear. There's a band called Gorgotron from Fargo, North Dakota, and I've played with them for many years, and their drummer's super sick. Matt Johnson, we call him Tio in Rottenness, but super sick drummer. So when we needed a new drummer, that was the first guy on my list where I was like, all right, if I'm going to, hit somebody up and be like, hey man, you should come do this tour with us. Like, cause we had a tour booked with, it was Anti-Gamma from Poland, Cognizant, which is like Brian Fajardo's band from Texas, super sick grind band, AK-47 from Indonesia, and Violent Opposition from California. So super cool tour lineup, and we didn't have a drummer. So that's when I decided to hit up Matt Johnson and kind of convinced him to join our rowdy bunch of people and come tour the US with us for like a month or something. And after that, then we decided like, hey, you should just join the band and let's start working on a record. And yeah, went from there.
And so am I correct in understanding that the lineup that you have now first started as a live lineup before you guys started to start working on new material?
Yeah, kind of. Like we had Matt for that one tour, and then we had Charlie, who plays in Animals Killing People and Botlam, and then he did that tour as well. And we recorded just a little like demo with both of those guys. And then we decided to get Carl, who's the singer of the band Gorgotron. We decided to have him play bass and do vocals. And then, yeah, so we kind of started as a live lineup and then sort of like hodgepodge an album together of stuff that, you know, we had all come up with over the years.
So let's talk about this latest album. It's called Violentopia, and it was released on May 20th through Self-Made God Records. So I'm assuming at this point, as you were working on this album, you guys were still remote, right? Jaleel was based in Mexico, and the rest of you guys were in your various locations in the U.S.?
Yep, correct.
Can you tell me what the
difficult?
Yeah, tell me about that. Tell me about the challenges in you guys working in separate locations.
I think the biggest challenge is personally me living with those guys for 6 months per year.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because I am allowed to be in the United States for 6 months. So every time that I go there, it's like we need to try to work as much as possible the stuff from the band while I'm there. Plus, sometimes they do stuff while I'm not there. Basically, I do nothing when I'm here because it's not the same. The guys already had the technology and all the studio recordings and all the gadgets. I do not have anything over here. So
right. We need to get you an interface there for sure one of these days. But also, Jaleel, start from the beginning, because in about, was it 2018, I flew down and lived with you in Mexico, and then we wrote maybe like 3 or 4 songs, I think. We wrote Alta Cabron, and we wrote a couple other ones while I lived in Mexico. And then you came up and lived with me for a while. We wrote another like 7 or 8. 4 or 5 songs, something like that. And then Carl wrote a song. And then, it definitely was like a big compilation of like different riffs written in different places. Some of it in Mexico, some of it in Fargo, some of it in Minneapolis. Yep.
So 2018, you guys started working on this album. Obviously, 2020, a lot of things changed. Jaleel, when were you mentioned that you can be in the U.S. 6 months at a time, and you were working with the guys during that period. Whenabouts did that happen?
2019, I think, right?
Yeah, I did it on 19 and 20th.
Yeah, correct.
I did it twice.
Yep.
I did it twice. Yeah, quite like the first serious session that we had was 2018, kind of.
Yeah.
And then we did again a couple of tours, a couple of shows, if I recall, in 2019. And then last year, I spent another 6 months with the band. That's when we just like finished all the last detail from the song. We just get rid of whatever we don't need it. We just redo a couple of songs.
Yep.
And Matt built a kind of like a studio in his house, and the other guys has their own studio in Fargo. So we come and go from those 2 places. And then I had a chance to finally be like playing together with Carr and Tio at the same house. So we just like kind of like nailing the full album before we started recording that.
Right, because you did the guitars last summer. You and Ray Nevison recorded the guitars down here, right where I'm sitting, actually, in my basement.
Mm-hmm.
And we put the amp in my bathroom and recorded, put
the cheapest guitar ever.
Yeah, dude. Put the guitar amp and cab in the bathroom and recorded it in there.
Yeah, I mean, with the new lineup, the good thing is that everybody's like bringing new ideas and everything. So finally, in these bands, like, I'm not a dictator. I'm not the one who only doing mostly 100% everything. So everybody has now their own thing on the band, and that's a good thing. That's why the new album sounds way different than the other ones that we had.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a cliche, say that, the new album is the best album. But but somehow it is, because this is a contribution of 5, 6 different people. Exactly, because Charlie helped us also.
Yep.
A couple of songs and riff, and it's different and it's better and it's good.
Yeah, a lot of different influences for sure. Yeah.
So, Jaleel, Matt and I were talking about the style of Rottenness. With this album being collaborative and people coming up with music individually, do you have a feeling of what you can or what you do and don't want to accomplish with this band? Were there times when you said, this isn't the sound that I'm going for, or this isn't right for this band? We always
going to be playing death metal. I mean, that after all these years, everything's been like, everybody wants to categorize the styles and everything else because it's death grind, it's brutal death, it's slam death. We always have this kind of different style of music that we like. And we always going to be very influenced by bands like Cephalic Carnage, like Brutal Truth, Napalm Death, but also like Cannibal Corpse and the old Punch and Stench, and bands like Visceral Disgorge.
Yeah.
So, and what we always want to play brutal music. That's the main thing, you know. And what I say all the time in the interviews is that it's death metal. I mean, if the label wants to say that we're death grind, I mean, I'm fine, you know, as long as people like it and people enjoy it and we enjoy what we're playing, it's fine. I mean, we're not gonna go stoner or doom or something like that. I mean, for that, maybe we can do a different projects or but yeah, no. And in that case, I think the main signature of the band will be always gonna be have this death metal thing with the grindcore, and sometimes I think we added a little bit of hardcore riff this time, but it's just something that we just had it in our system for so many years, and finally with the new drummer, with the new bass player, with now that everybody can sing, it's like we got three different vocalists that give you this big picture that we can explode at that. We can do different stuff now. And I always told the guy, like, hey, if you feel that this riff or this time or this song or this scream is better on this part, just do it. Because, I mean, there's no rules at all.
Yeah.
It's that metal.
Definitely.
Now, Matt, did you feel, or did you have to alter or change your vocal style at all for this project? Are you doing something different than...
Yeah, Rottenness is definitely... This style is like definitely a lot more guttural and just like way nastier than, I mean, other bands have done more like death metal or kind of like technical death metal. Obviously, I did Formless Master, which was like grindcore. And I've had a lot of projects that are kind of all over the spectrum of like black metal or black and death. But Rottenness is like, for me, just supposed to be like pure old school brutality. Like he brought up Cephalic Carnage. That's a huge influence because Lenzig's style is like all over the place. Every song's different. All of his vocal styles are different. And that's a huge influence for me. Obviously Suffocation, you know, Frank Mullen, just like the nastiest guttural vocals that you can possibly try to accomplish. And so for Rottenness, it's like definitely trying to keep everything super brutal. And then also depending on what song it is, there's definitely a couple tracks off the new record where like I did a bunch of shit I've never done before of like, almost like kind of more like hardcore, like Internal Bleeding or like Dying Fetus style, like just like barking vocals or whatever. And so there's a bunch of weird shit on this record, but I think it turned out pretty cool, like relatively speaking.
Plus singing in Spanish.
Mm-hmm. And like a few songs in Spanish. Yep. I wrote maybe 4 tracks that have all the lyrics in Spanish, and definitely a challenge trying to learn that, but it's pretty cool. The Molotov cover at the end of the album, sort of the bonus track, that was definitely like the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Like I spent like 5 hours recording one song. Like that shit was so hard, but we kind of pieced it together and turned out cool.
Now, was it just because of the Molotov song was in Spanish, or was it also because of the rhythm that you had to follow for that song?
Dude, that song's so crazy because it's a rap song. So me and the vocalist of this band called Unidad Trauma, they're from Tijuana, super sick band. They were just out on tour with like Goat Horror and Brujeria for like a month or something. So me and Oscar from Unidad Trauma, we like tag teamed the vocals on that song. And dude, it's just like, it's super fast. It's super, everything's in Spanish, obviously. And it's very quick. And, I'm a gringo. My mouth is not meant to like rap in Spanish, like naturally. So it took a lot of practice just to like get that one song down.
Plus adding on that thing that we have for the first time a song in Spanish. Since the new guy started being in the band, Matt with me is the longest member in the band. These guys have been embracing the thing that it's a Mexican band, and most of the time it has to be something in Spanish because that's the culture. And they embrace it very well, and they always like it to talk about stuff about the culture. And during the past tours, we're always joking and definitely they try to learn Spanish and be in contact with other people who speak Spanish. And all that. Another thing one of the things that Rottenness has is that when we do a cover, we always want to do something different.
Yeah.
We want to get out of the line. Like, everybody wants to do a Morbid Angel cover or a Cannibal Corpse cover. And every time we try to do like the opposite. And during this tour, I showed Tio this song from this band. And he's like, do that. And this is because the whole song is cursing words.
Yeah.
So he started enjoying it and everything. So we say, hey, just for the fun, like, we should cover the song, you know? And it's a fun song. It is totally different from the whole vibe of the album. And it makes sense, It's the people that have been listening right now since the record came out here in Mexico. They like, everybody say that's amazing because they didn't expect us. They expect us to do something, another punk song or something like that.
Yeah.
But we threw out this famous band from Mexico, and also that Matt and the other guy is singing in Spanish, and then everybody said, but he cannot say the words correctly, and that's the beauty of the song. That's the fun part of the song. Because the first time that I heard Brujeria, the first time that I heard Matando Güeros, and this guy, Brujo, was singing everything wrong, I was like, it makes sense. That's the fun part.
Mm-hmm.
But then Matt came out with the idea to do like a serious song on the album called Conquistadores.
Yeah.
In Spanish. And I say, hey, do it. Do it. Let's do it. Just bring out the lyrics. I don't give a fuck about the translation. If something is wrong, you say something bad, it's part of the translation, and that's it. That's the thing that we liked it. And,
it's pretty close too.
Guys,
it's pretty close, yeah.
And since the band said like they approached to us, hey, we like it. It's cool in Spanish. They also do the chorus in Spanish, so and you can hear they're good effort and everything. So that's the part, While we did the Spanish song.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the recording of this album. You guys mentioned that Jaleel's parts were recorded in your bathroom, Matt.
Yeah, well, the cab was placed in the bathroom, and then he recorded, like, I have a little studio kind of in my basement here. But yeah, like literally this entire record, kind of a unique approach that we took was that we recorded everything ourselves. Matt recorded the drums in Fargo with Neil Stein as the engineer. And then we recorded both the guitars right here in this basement. The vocals were done right here in this basement. Like everything's right here. And then we put everything together. We had a couple guest musicians. We had Brian Hopp from Cephalic Carnage do a solo. We had Blake Harrison from Pig Destroyer do like a noise interlude to start the record, an intro rather, to start the record. And then my friend Andy Nelson did a solo on another track. And then we had the Unidad Trauma guys. We also did the Chinga Tu Madre vocals, like had a bunch of people, friends of the band down here, and we all yelled Chinga Tu Madre 700 times. But yeah, it was a super interesting approach because we DIY recorded everything, and the early mixes of the record were like very, rough and DIY. But then we sent it off to this guy, Rob Caldwell, who's worked with like Cannibal Corpse, Municipal Waste, Goat Horror, Devourment. He's like a really, really good engineer. And he mixed it and reamped everything and just did a bunch of work to the guitars and the vocals and the drums and turned it into like a super monstrous sounding record. So that was like a very, for me at least, I've never done anything like that, where we kind of had like one version of the record and then we sent it off to this mixing engineer who like polished everything and made everything sound like 100 times sicker. Yep.
Now, Jaleel, sound-wise, how do you compare Violentopia to the previous Rottenness albums?
Oh, way different. Even better. It's better. Definitely. I mean, even on the last album that we recorded in Denver under Steve Goldberg from Cephalic Studio, I mean, I'm not into, I don't know anything about fucking studios or recordings. I'm not the nerd. The other guys are the nerds. But I mean, listening this new album for me is a huge step, a definitely huge step. And I think pretty much is I always tell the guys that how we sound live is sometimes how we sound on the CD. I don't want to get too diverse from that kind of sound. So pretty much what we're doing on this album is how the band sounds live, pretty much 90%. Mm-hmm. So it's something that you're going to see when you see the band live. You will see that, okay, these guys are playing what they recorded. It's not bullshit. So because the sound and everything's kind of like more like a live situation, and it nailed it. The guys that Matt brought for the recording, it was very, I'm so happy for that with these people too.
In addition to Rob Caldwell, who mixed the album was mastered by David Bilia.
Yeah, right.
I hope I'm saying that correctly.
Yep, David Bilia.
Who people might know from Hour of Penance and Beheaded, besides his work as an engineer. What would you say David brought to the sound of the album?
He basically just like, we sent him the final, mix just as one solid track. And then he just kind of did like the final EQ and like figuring out how much compression to put on it. Like we wanted the record to be super loud and in your face. A lot of people like compress the shit out of everything and kind of create stuff that might be more like safe sounding, but we wanted ours to sound really like old school. And I think we've achieved that. I mean, quite a few people have told us that it sounds like, that like late 90s, early 2000s crossing over from analog to digital sort of era. And that's pretty much exactly what we were going for, of like having really good production, but also having it just be like as loud as fucking possible and as like nasty as possible while still being able to hear every instrument and everything.
Jaleel, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, one of the fun facts is that David, I met him in 2009 while we were on tour in Europe. And it's so funny after all these years when Matt mentioned, oh, who's gonna do the mix album's gonna be David, and I was like, what? I mean, like, I met this guy in 2009, and how did I knew that he was gonna do our new album? So it's kind of funny thing, like closing the circle, because sometimes
Mundo Pequeño.
Yeah, because we were just like, when I remember we met, that was in a festival in Switzerland, and we were just talking and say, yeah, our bands can do these shows together, we can do something together, blah, blah. And then after like almost 20 years or something like that, it's like, hey, finally, we just closed that circle that he just did that for us. It was amazing.
So as we finish up, at this point, Rottenness has been around in some form for almost 30 years. Jaleel, is there anything that you'd like to do with this band that you haven't had a chance to do yet?
Yeah, Japan.
Yeah.
That's my wet dream so far.
Algún día. We had a whole tour in Japan and Korea booked, and then fucking COVID happened, and the border's been closed for like 3 years now. So whenever that reopens, we're gonna hopefully rebook that tour and go to Japan.
Yeah, I was talking to the guys the other day that this hard time that passed at the moment because of the COVID and everything, for me, it was a different perspective, because it gave me a little bit to put the breakdowns and just stop for a little bit, because the band has been active since 2002. So from 2002, we never stopped touring the world. So we've been, even with or without an album, we always been going to festivals, traveling here and there, and just stopping for a couple of years for me was like, okay, that's good. But no, with the band, there's always stuff that I really want to do still. Like, I want to go to Japan someday with the band. I still want to do more shows with friends, like with Cephalic Carnage and other festivals that, it's on the bucket list to say, hey, we can do this and that. And yeah, we have done so much. And speaking in the case that before Matt and the new guys, I've done so much stuff in Europe or Central America, between Mexico and United States before them. But now it's like, hey, I want to show these guys what we did in the past too, so they can have that opportunity to see the things that we saw 20 years ago. And so they can see, hey, if I've stopped this band or for some reason, they can still have their own bands and get the contacts and continue doing it. And maybe I just became the tour manager or just the roadie, but still going with them. But yeah, there's not a few bucket lists yet with the band, and but right now, with the times that we live in, it's gonna be a very slow pace that we're gonna find out what we can do or not.
And for the near future, what do you guys have planned?
We got some good offers right now. Like, we were just down in Colombia, played some shows. So we have some offers for South America. One of the things that sound pretty definite for next year is an Ecuador tour. I became really good friends with this promoter, and he's super legit, books a ton of bands down there, and he really wants to bring us down there next spring. So that sounds highly likely. And then we really definitely have to get back over to Europe. Like, we've always had really cool European tours for Obscene Extreme and Messu Festival and festivals in NRW Festival and Vermelskirchen, Germany. So any of those for next year, finding some kind of festival to play over in Europe and then heading back over there. We have tons of contacts and pretty much just need to make it happen. And I think with the new record, it'll be better than ever to get back over there. So that's definitely on the list as well.
We never been in Canada, so
yeah, that's another offer we got too. Yeah, we got an offer for that.
Time, Canada, we can do always United States without any problem, but we just want to hit this time with this new album, different places, different festivals.
Yep.
We're gonna do the Chicago Fest in July, but because we know that place and it's a good start for the first time showing the album to our friends and other bands. So yeah, we're definitely looking for new stuff.
Oh, we should probably plug that. So Chicago Domination Fest, end of July, and then also Slam Dakota Festival, end of August. And those are both two really cool festivals. That's like all we have booked so far for the rest of this year.
So Violentopia is out now through Self-Made God Records. Jaleel, Matti Güey, what is the best way for people to order the album? How can they get it?
All right, I got it, Jaleel. Selfmadegod.com. You can order the record there. Also, Self-Made God on Bandcamp. You can order the CD, digital download, t-shirt there. And our Facebook is just Rottenness, Rottenness. And then Instagram, it's Rottenness MX, as in Mexico. And we're on YouTube and all that other shit too. We'll be on Spotify. The new record will be on Spotify within the next week. And yeah, pretty much all the streaming services and everything. Just look us up and should be on there.
Very cool. And is there anything else you guys want to say?
No, thank you. Thank you for the time. Appreciate that we're doing this because it's been a long time then we haven't done anything like an interviews or just like talking to other people about the album and the future. So hopefully it's not the first time and the only one, so we can do it again.
Yeah, man. Yeah, thanks for everything. We really appreciate it. First interview for this record and also the first one me and Jaleel have ever done together. So gracias por eso.
Well, I'm sorry it was with me.
No, man, it was great.
Excellent. Gracias, amigos.
Gracias.
No, de nada, a ti.